Mick on behalf of his group. Question on promised legislation.
Taoiseach, the Irish Examiner informs us this morning that 1/3 of Threshold's clientele in Munster are currently facing notices to quit, which points towards a wave of evictions of renters in the early new year, no doubt encouraged by your government's decision to give 100% tax breaks to landlords who renovate and who will be carrying out renovictions in some cases. Now, the Roscommon eviction is the talk of the country. I believe that mass, peaceful, people power protest can stop evictions in the towns and cities, beginning with people taking a stand and refusing to quit. So on legislation, last Thursday, the anti-eviction bill was passed by 45 votes to 39 at second stage in this House. Will you assure the House that Fine Gael will not attempt to put this bill into cold storage at third stage, and will you join with me in saying that this bill should be fast-tracked so as to ban evictions into homelessness?
A similar question, Deputy Murphy, brief.
To you at an early stage. I don't want to get into this, and I know you would come to me. But with all due respect to Taoiseach and everybody else in this House, I live 3 miles from the family. I grew up virtually beside them. I went to school with them. So I would say, you know, I know those people better than anybody. And people are very upset, number one, with the way the eviction was carried out, and number two, with the violence that did take place. But it's important I clarify this. This is on my home turf and my friends, and I'm sure everybody will understand if I take a few extra seconds to deal with it. And I think the reality of the situations now is that we have to move as legislators, and I don't believe there's one person in this House doesn't want to see those people back in their home for Christmas, irrespective of our different views. But I would ask the Taoiseach one question. Do you agree that it is time that we all work together on legislation to once and for all remove heavy gangs from going in evicting people? That would be a major step in the right direction. In 2018 we should be well able to do this and remove what is a horrible situation for many people.
Deputy John McGuinness, similar.
On the same issue, the last Count Cora, I just want to reinforce what Deputy Murphy has said. And to ask the Taoiseach, will you take an initiative here and look at all the various pieces of legislation that are in one stage or another before this House to ensure that the type of evictions that we witnessed in the last few days will not happen again? And also, can you tell me, in the context of Programme for Government, it says that you will introduce legislation to protect the SMEs of this country and to protect those that are in difficulty with their mortgages against vulture funds, because nothing has happened.
Okay, Deputy Matty McGrath, this is your opportunity. You won't be getting a second opportunity.
No. I'm coming in on different issues. Sorry.
Similar. Oh no, well if you're not, so Taoiseach on the issue. Deputy Murphy.
In relation to protections for renters, and just to thank Threshold for the excellent work that they do, and that's why the government, through the taxpayer, does fund that work that they do. We do have a bill, the rent bill, that brings about much stronger protections for renters than we already have. That's the government's priority legislation when it comes to this area of renters. It is absolutely a matter for the Business Committee and for the Joint Oireachtas Committee as to what it does now with the anti-evictions bill that was passed last week. But I would stress that there is consensus, I believe, in the House around the government's bill for stronger protections for renters. A lot of work has been done on it in consultation with the RTB, and it's the government's priority to proceed with that legislation as quickly as it can. Thank you.
Any other questions, Taoiseach, briefly?
First Deputy Murphy and then Deputy McGuinness. In response to Deputy Murphy, I agree with his sentiments. I think it's entirely appropriate that we should now extend regulation to these private security firms. We regulate doormen and nightclubs, we regulate people who fit the alarm in your house. It's entirely appropriate that we should also regulate these private security firms, and Minister for Justice is working on that already, and we'll come back with proposals in January. At the same time, though, I think we also need to bear in mind that we have to stand over personal responsibility and people's responsibility to pay back money they owe. There are people in this country who need credit, lots of people who want to set up a business, lots of people who want to buy a home for the first time. If other people don't pay back their debts, then there'll be no credit for people trying to set up a business. There'll be no credit for people trying to buy a home for the first time. And if other people don't pay back their debts and there isn't a mechanism in place to enforce it, then all of us face higher interest rates.
Thank you,
like everyone who currently has a business, everyone who's currently have a mortgage. So we need to be realistic about this, and we need to be honest with people. If you borrow money, you have to pay it back. If you don't pay it back, then you're denying other people access to credit and you're driving up interest rates for everyone, and that's socially wrong.
The Rural Independent Group,